Okay, Nate. Today for this video, you wanted to discuss determinism, which you sort of had to explain a little bit to me. Could you explain it to your audience?
Yeah, well, determinism is an idea which I find disturbing, but it's also a logical conclusion. Because on one hand, scientists say the universe is infinite and infinite possibilities, but if you reject that there can be infinite possibilities and you say that there are only finite possibilities and finite outcomes, then the universe is deterministic. Because essentially, what determinism says is that everything is just cause and effect playing out. So this happened, then as the result of that, the next thing happened, then as the obvious result of that, the next thing happened, and everything is like dominoes falling. One thing happens and it causes the next thing to happen, and that's the only way it could ever really play out, and the only thing that could ever really happen is what happened, because there are only a finite number of outcomes to each scenario. So if you believe in superdeterminism, you would believe that every event in the universe could be predicted if you had this super advanced supercomputer, which couldn't conceivably be created. But hypothetically, if you accept determinism, you would believe that if you had all the knowledge of all the variables of the first instance of the universe, that is, you knew everything about the first instance of the universe, and you had this super amazing supercomputer, hypothetical supercomputer that could calculate this, you should be able to calculate every possible outcome of that first instance of the universe, because there's only so many ways it can go. So, they've shown now that they can predict which way a bee will walk. They can show that a bee will turn left or a bee will turn right. Yeah, because everything should be able to be predicted, because everything is just cause and effect, and there are only so many outcomes, so it's all probability. So it's like a game of pool. There's only so many ways you can hit the ball. There's only so many ways that the ball can go, and only so many reactions that can cause. And even if the number of possibilities is trillions, it's still finite. So all it takes is an advanced enough computer that can calculate the probabilities, and you should be able to predict the entire game of pool. Now, then you ask questions about whether the pool player has free will and the choices that the pool player makes of which way he will hit the ball. But if you accept super determinism, we don't have free will. Everything is pretty much determined from the start of the universe, and everything plays out the one way that it will play out. So you should be able to calculate, if you know everything about the psychology of the pool player, everything about the pool player's life, everything that affects the pool player's decision making. If you know everything that affects the pool player's decision making, you should be able to predict exactly how the game will play out. Especially if you know everything about every pool player's decision making and every aspect of their psychology, you should be able to predict the entire game of pool, because there are only finite possibilities. And it's like, if you think about surveillance technology, Google has so much information on us, and ASIO and the security community have so much information on us. They can run that information through algorithms and computer programs, and they can predict things that you'll do a week in advance. They know your whole schedule. They can almost predict what you'll buy on a certain day. They can predict your spending habits. So, see, the thing is, determinism takes away our agency and free will, and says that there is fate and everything is locked in place, and that from the start of the universe it was only ever going to play out how it played out, and that we are all automatrons just playing out cause and effect throughout our lives and throughout the existence of the universe. And a lot of science is rooted in deterministic thinking. Of course, things like the double slit experiment have smashed determinism out of the water, showing that the universe has more of a chance variable in it. There is more of a variable of chance in the universe. But if you remove the double slit experiment, which isn't well explained yet, and you revert back to determinism, you would believe that everything that will ever happen can be predicted. So yeah, it takes away our free will and agency and our choice, and says that we are just playing out the universe from start to finish, and that's only ever going to happen how it happens. So yeah, can you be predicted? Can everything you do be predicted? Can Google predict what you will buy next week or what you will spend money on? That's how these algorithms work that pitch you advertising for products they think you want to buy. Facebook has so much information on you, they know what you're going to do next week because you're predictable, because the universe is deterministic. So we're all predictable, and everything we do can be predicted. It's just dependent on having enough information. If you have enough information about someone, if you have information about their past, present, their life story, their psychology, what affects their decision making, the sort of things they like, the trends they're into, the people they've been with in relationships. If you know all this about a person, you can, and you have a good computer that can run this calculation, you should be able to predict what that person will do for a great portion of their life. People don't realize how predictable they are. Software can predict your behavior. So is the universe deterministic, or is there chance and free will? I wonder. I certainly don't want the universe to be deterministic. It's depressing. I prefer to think that I have choice and agency in my actions